This is DC We the People News. Okay, uh, this video is without prejudice and or without recourse. All right, never look just straight forward. Always look around you to be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Okay. Now, the key thing about this is let's just ignore this word sovereign because it's been such a corrupt word. Okay, and just stand as a man and a woman. Look at this as a man and a woman. Listen to the attorney and listen to the man speak. Okay? Dissect this and find out what is going on. Remember, y'all, we did not have bar unions until after the 18th century. They came from England, by the way. Okay? Just remember that when you listen to this. So, before then, we actually legitimately had counsel. My dad could help me in my time in need in court because he would be my counsel. And who's these attorneys saying that just because they have more power and I study law, which I can legally and lawfully do by the Supreme Courts, by the way, who do them have the authority to decide for me, for a man and woman to sit beside me and help me through my time of needs in this court system? Where did they get this authority, y'all? But sit and think on the man's behalf and listen to what the attorney says. Okay? Very carefully. And also keep an eye on a subject. Look up the definition, the original definition of subject. What is a subject? What is a status? Y'all, to this day, they even still use status in court. But usually it's the attorney saying this. Because we have zero rights as men to think for ourselves in court to better decide who is more suitable to help me in my time of need.
Yes, whom am I speaking with?
I'm one of the APAs.
Okay.
And are you still there?
Yes, I am. What's your name?
I'm not going to give that. I'm looking right now. I'm trying to first of all decide what your role is in the case because...
Oh, we're going to stop right there. Okay, so this is attorney, district attorney of general's office, right? Wait a minute. How come she is not allowed to tell us her name? Right? And that what we've been watching on Court Watchers and all that kind of stuff? So they are not responsible for their actions.
Well, I understand you are asking about a Colby Black. He has an attorney. So you would be...
Kobe has...
No?
I'm Kobe's counsel.
What does that mean?
That means according to the Sixth Amendment, he has the right to counsel. That counsel does not have to come from the Bar Association. And he has appointed me to handle his affairs as his...
That is actually true, y'all. Remember again, during the beginning of this, there was no bar before the 1800s. All right. Well, a short period of time. Yeah, it was after the British came in 1812 and created these bar unions. And New Mexico was actually the last state that accepted the bar union, which was in, I believe, right at the end of the 18th century or the early 19th century. It took a while for them to actually create the whole United States as a whole of this American Bar Association, and the Supreme Court watches over the bar associations. Okay? But until then, before then, we only had counsel. My dad's a counsel of me. And yet, these people are telling me that I cannot have my dad sit beside me and be my counsel. Who are them to say that? After all, I'm 53 years old, and my dad's been my counsel for 53 years. Just saying.
Counsel.
Okay. All right, Mr. Shuffle, I just want you to, I have to give you this warning. Anything you say may be used against Colby Black's case, so I don't want to really have you, affect his case because you're not an attorney. So that means there would not be attorney-client privilege. When an attorney calls and says things on behalf of his client, that can.
Now, notice the key word is she keeps referring to as attorney, but she never refers that this other man's attorney. She's never claimed him having counsel. All right, counsel and attorney is two different things, people. They lie and cheat and steal. They say they're one and the same, but they're not. And it's in the books. They're two different things. They cannot be one and the same. And yet, you guys are going to think I'm a liar. Because you guys don't do your research. And yes, it's hearsay for what I said to you.
Not be used against the client because he's an attorney. That you're not, that protection wouldn't apply.
I understand.
And so I don't want you to say anything that he may think would be helpful that may not be helpful.
I understand.
Officer of the court, I can't help, I don't want to hurt the defendant either.
My only responsibility at this point is to notify the district attorney office of Colby Black's status because you have not been notified until yesterday, November 26th, of his status as a sovereign man. Okay? So I fulfilled my responsibility as his counsel in notifying the district attorney's office of Cabarrus County that Colby Lamont Black is a sovereign man and you are detaining him against his will. You are violating his constitutional rights. You are obstructing him from exercising his natural born, inalienable rights and inherent powers. Okay?
All right. Okay, and he has an attorney here, too, that will work on his behalf as well.
As far as that other attorney is concerned, I'm not sure the role. He may be getting fired soon. I do not know. But I do know that I was asked to step in and convene on his behalf as his counsel and to make sure that you were given proper notice of his status as a sovereign man. So you are now liable.
So that may have some bearing in a procedure that you utilize or something, but I have to act under the laws of North Carolina. That's what I've taken a notice to do. And there is not such a procedure here.
I'm not referring to a procedure. I'm referring to a status. Okay, based on the Constitution.
Recognition of that status under North Carolina law.
I'm asking you, do you recognize the Constitution of the United States of America?
Of course, and there's nothing in the
Absolutely, the 10th Amendment.
Constitution or about the case law that has interpreted that Constitution that recognizes the status or anything else. So that's fine. I mean,
do you not recognize that the 10th Amendment allows every man or woman to declare their individual sovereignty? According to the 10th Amendment?
No, I don't know what your definition of individual sovereignty is.
It's not my definition, it's the legal definition. Black's Law Dictionary will inform you.
Okay, well, like I said, I know that, and you just got to be very careful that, I know that sovereign groups do have their own.
I'm not a sovereign group. I'm not a sovereign group. I'm specifically involved to notify you of Colby Black's status so that you will be liable from here forward.
Liable, there is no liability.
Now, just to remind you guys, judges have their own sovereign group. Federal government has their own sovereign group. Alright? States have their own sovereign group. Just men and women are not allowed to have sovereign groups. Just saying.
Under unauthorized practice of law, because under our system that we will follow, the only person that has a right to speak for anyone is that person himself or an attorney who is authorized and
by him.
under.
Are you saying no man has the legal right to have another man speak for him unless they go through the bar association?
That's exactly right. Exactly what I'm saying.
And
Read that again, y'all. That is exactly right. I have no right to pick and choose who's best suited for me in court. It's only best suited for the courts. And I must apply and get some type of conflict of interest attorney that's bound to the exact same bar as that judge, which is conflict of interest. So my attorney and the other attorney, the district attorney or prosecutor attorney, and that judge is all bar unions, and it's exactly conflict of interest. There's no way around it. It is conflict of interest. And she's telling me I don't have a right to get out of that conflict of interest, and telling me I have exactly zero due process unless I comply to their conflict of interest against me.
and that is not constitutional, is what I'm telling you. Excuse me.
And that issue has also been determined by the U.S. Supreme Court. They did not agree with that. The state also has a compelling interest to make sure that people who are speaking for others are trained to do so.
Okay, are you referring to Nisi Prius courts or are you referring to superior courts of record? Because we do not get involved in Nisi Prius courts. Only a man can only be tried and heard in a superior court of record. So are we referring to a superior courts of record?
That's right. And there is no right to have just anyone speak for you.
So you're telling me that a man cannot have another man appoint
I mean, how arrogant is the bar and judges saying that you have zero rights to have anybody that you see fit? Just saying, y'all. Does this make any sense to you? Yeah, we live in a land of free. Really? Then I don't have the freedom to pick and choose who is best suited for me in the court of law. Win or lose, it don't really matter. They just particularly said I just don't have the right to decide. And that I must have a conflict of interest in that courtroom against me.
another man to speak on his behalf, unless that other individual has gone through the American Bar Association?
I don't know about, not the American Bar Association, whether they are licensed to practice law in the state they're seeking to represent the other person.
So no man has a right to speak on his behalf unless he's licensed, and no man has a right for another man to speak on their behalf unless they're licensed. This is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying a person charged with a crime can speak for themselves.
Yes, but if that person that is charged with the crime feels like they're not comfortable to speak on their behalf, are you saying that their only other option is to have another licensed man or woman speak on their behalf?
Yes, that's why it's called the bar, because no one is supposed to go through the bar and sit on the inner part of the courtroom unless they have passed the bar. So the judge won't recognize. Now, there have been times like in sentencing or let's say you have a trial and you call a witness. Then, of course, a witness doesn't have to be bar licensed. And if you're, like, let's say, sentencing and someone wants to stand up and say good things on behalf of the defendant, they can do that. But they're not allowed to speak, advocate for the defendant.
Okay.
They're not allowed to protect his rights.
Well, ma'am, if you feel that a man does not have or reserve the individual right to appoint any man he chooses, regardless of license, regardless of passing a bar association or being a member of a bar association, if you feel that a man does not have that right to appoint any other man to speak on his behalf during a trial, then we will pursue our litigation against you, and we will see how those claims hold up in due process.
Honestly, say is this: if you're planning to come to North Carolina and speak for Colby Black, just expect that the court's going to have these same issues. But that's for you to determine.
And that's for the court to deal with.
The judge make that call, right? Not me, but I'm just telling you that's the law in North Carolina. And as a prosecutor, we prosecute those who engage in the unauthorized practice of law. For instance, if you would go down the street and get someone, and let's say the person is not an attorney, and say, hey, I'm going to draw up a will for you. You can't do that. Just like you can't have someone conduct an operation unless they are a licensed medical doctor.
And my question is, who has the authority to tell men what they can and cannot do?
The government.
A legal fictitious entity has the authority to tell a man who created it that they can and cannot do something.
Right. The people in this state, this country, have gotten together and have formed a government that they feel best suits their needs. And they have set up, the state government, they've set up the federal government. They have then duly elected representatives from their areas to go to either their state Congress or their federal Congress and make laws and rules for them. And that's what has happened. And me and you and everyone else who goes and votes chooses those people. Those people get together and they have created this government that I'm talking about, these rules that I'm talking about. They're not my rules.
I understand that process. So
What you're trying to do is to make up new rules or something else.
I most certainly am not making up anything. I'm returning to the natural laws that.
So then think about that again, y'all. The government was created to protect your rights, not to confiscate your rights. And this attorney herself says you have zero rights to get anybody to be able to protect yourself in court. Who's the one that's actually violating who? Who is the one changing the rules? So think about that, y'all. The government's there to protect our rights. And what they have been doing is garnishing our rights. An attorney there is saying that you have no rights to be able to protect yourself by any means necessary unless you comply to the conflict of interest of the bar union.
The governments have gotten away from. Now, my question to you is, I understand the voting process and how the government system came to be established. Now, in the event that establishment, that government, that legal fictitious entity goes out of control, it becomes tyrant, it becomes oppressive. Are you saying that the other men and women in the country or in the nation that disagree still are obligated to be, to be governed by them, even though they disagree with their officers, their works, their practices? Men who disagree. If someone else votes for people, we understand why they voted for them. But if I don't vote for them, am I still obligated to be under the rule or the government of someone I do not agree with governing me?
Yeah, because it's going to happen to me right now.
So how different is that than from slavery?
Because you have the right to vote.
But
Slavery, you couldn't determine anything. People told everything to you. You couldn't have the right to even earn your own living. You had to work for someone else to get no pay for it. You can go and make any call you want, vote for anyone you want to, and you have avenues to redress any injury you may have. You can go, if you feel like your constitutional rights are being violated, then you can go file a lawsuit.
absolutely. But my question is,
Also, go out and cancel.
And go broke. And still don't get the results because they have sovereign immunity that they protected themselves due to attorneys writing and making all these things true and correct as for their sovereignties, and it's taking your sovereignty. Just saying. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? They're throwing a hissy fit by this guy claiming a sovereign thing, but yet they're doing exactly what a sovereign thing is doing, right? They're making you a slave. They have kingship over you. And regardless what you guys think, on my behalf, Democrats and Republicans are one and the same, except in public. In private, they're too busy French kissing one another behind them closed doors and taking your rights away. In public, they're going to say, oh, blah, 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 blah. Just
For
saying.
people you think are going to
saying in the event as we are experiencing today, when the system has failed so miserably, how is it that the people are still obligated to be governed and be oppressed by the system when they disagree with it? How different is that? Because that doesn't sound like the freedoms you were just expressing.
Actually, that's exactly what kind of system it is. Because you know what we could have? We could have like South America. And you have one government that'll rise up and they'll be there for 5 years until everybody realizes, oh, this is awful. And then they go to war and people die. And then someone else rises to power and they say nice things. Oh, I won't oppress you. I'm going to be great. And then
That's exactly what they're doing right now. The only differences between Africa and today are England or Sudan. They had 1,000 years. We've only had a couple of 100 years. Just saying, y'all. It is literally working that way. And we are become other countries. We have not became... We're still not the United States of America anymore. The United States of America now is all complete conflict of interest against the people.
don't oppress everyone. There's another war and more people die. That's the alternative.
Well, I understand the big picture in that way, but bringing it to a more personal matter, based on this system, you have a man sitting in jail with no bond, no bail, no court date, and no hopes of getting out, and no due process of law. So how is this system has failed him?
I'm gonna look him up. And by the way, it's not my case. But he has an attorney. He's someone who is licensed to advocate for him, and he does have court dates.
His attorney has done a horrible...
Okay. So she says, well, he does have an attorney. Well, that's great and dandy. However, no bond. He's still in jail. And so far, no due process. Again, it's a learning video. I'm not giving legal advice, okay? Because I'm not an attorney. But sit and think outside the box. What she's saying and what this man is saying, which is true and correct. Alright? The metrics.
Job. Otherwise, I would not have been brought into... I was researched and brought into this situation solely based on his attorney's performance, who everyone involved is totally displeased with.
Well, I mean, you can look in.
So,
this guy's got several court dates set. And also, my understanding is that he was on, he had a court date and didn't appear on it. So the judge issued an order for arrest. But he has a court date, and
the last I looked, they said it was a court date for December 3rd. When we called in about that, they said that was not a legitimate court date, and there was another one mentioned on December 25th. So, and you all said that you will not be having any more hearings after the 17th for the rest of the year. So what court dates are you referring to?
because December 3rd. Who said that wasn't legit? He's got a number of cases on for that day.
I saw the December 3rd.
Right.
But apparently, the December 3rd case...
I am telling you with first-hand knowledge, they have given dates shown in courts, not give you proper notice that it's been changed and to another date, and you end up missing court and have a bench warrant. In fact, if you sit and look at some of the auditors out there, a year later, a warrant comes up for missing a court date that they didn't have no knowledge of. And they had a whole year to let you notified. Just saying.
Is different from what he's sitting in jail for. This is
I don't know about that. He certainly has the December 3rd. His attorney will be there to be able to mention any other cases he had. So, you know.
So you're saying you're expecting his attorney to be present on December 3rd?
Yeah, let me make sure that December... Hold on. Find that December 3rd again. Make sure that attorney is pointed for that one. Actually, no, this case has been dismissed.
Which case has been dismissed?
The one that I saw the December 3rd. Those have been dismissed.
Okay, so why is he in there now?
It's for the ones that he called to fail. The only reason 12/25, that's when, oh, here's March 3rd. I have all these for these. See, I feel that's January court date that have been dismissed as well. No, December 3rd date, it's set for December 3rd. His attorney's back in, and he will have to answer to those in court. The reason that he doesn't have a court date on the other offenses is because he failed to appear on May 9th, 2013. So he had a court date. He was supposed to be here. He did not. And when you don't appear to a court date, the judge issues an order for your arrest. As soon as you're picked up, since the magistrate doesn't know what the next, since they're a felony, they don't know what the next appear court date is, they just put Christmas. That alerts everyone that this is a call fail type case. They put it on the next time they're in court. So he does have court dates. He does have an attorney, and it's up to that attorney to help him.
Yes, but his attorney, whenever the family interacts with them, however he's responding, the family is very displeased with his performance, and they have no confidence in his ability or will to help Kobe.
He should, not you and not the family, because family can't answer for him either. He should just write a letter to the judge. You can do that. And say, I'd make it very short. I'm not satisfied with my attorney. I'd ask for you to reconsider another attorney for me. I'd like to be heard about this. That's all he has to do, and the judge will make the call. I'm not guaranteeing that he'll get a new new attorney. That's up to the judge. But I'm sure if he lays out decent grounds of why he doesn't want this attorney, the judge will listen to it.
But once again, you're saying he has to go through the system to have representation.
Right. They're going to have to be a licensed attorney. Period. That is the law across this country. We don't let anyone just conduct surgeries.
Who owns the courtroom?
Well, yeah, who owns their hospital? We do.
Public, right?
What's the difference? And the public owns the hospitals too. What's the difference there?
Exactly. So my question is, where does the authority come from the workers, the trustees, to instruct the grantors of the privilege?
Let me ask you this, Mr. Chappell, do you think the government should be able to determine who is able to conduct surgeries on people or not?
I think each individual should be able to conduct who does surgery on them or not.
Really? So you think that if someone wants to go down the street, go to some back alley, and have a heart transplant, they should be able to do it?
I think whoever needs a heart transplant should be able to decide who transplants on their heart, who does the operation on their heart.
Yeah, well, they can't. That's the law as it is. You get to choose which doctor.
That's all I'm saying.
Are you saying that people should be able to choose anyone regardless of whether they are a licensed doctor or not?
Absolutely. If someone has done their personal research and they feel that a credible licensed doctor does not have the merits of some doctor in some jungle who knows other remedies that are unheard of, but based on the results of the jungle guy and the results of the doctor's accolades, they still want to go with jungle guy. They reserve the right to go with jungle guy.
Well, and that is absurd. What about this? What if you have an 8-year-old who needs a surgery, and their parent decides that I'm going to let some jungle guy cut this child up and do a surgery? You think that's okay too?
That is the parent's child. That is their responsibility. That is their right to make that decision for their child. Absolutely.
The thing is, that is not seen as a reasonable standard that the rest of us are willing to
That's not a standard for reasonable for the rest of everybody else. So everybody else has authority over your own family due to their belief. Just saying, y'all. You literally actually have zero rights. We just have an illusion that we actually have rights. Just saying.
Reasonable to who?
to the majority of Americans, because we all, in every state, we have laws, but that is not the law. We don't allow that.
Well, here's my question. If that family...
Nobody in Abilene has any say over me if I have rights. But if I don't have rights, then everybody in Abilene actually has authority over me, which means in turns I am their subject, I am their slave. That's the reason why the 10th Amendment is very important. The state or person. Okay? State or. Because I have individual rights. But according to this lady, according to everybody else in the United States, I do not have my individual rights. Because you guys out there seems to think you know what's best for me when you don't even know what's best for you.
If that mother, for whatever reason, does not agree with the majority, why should she be forced to comply with them regarding the health of her child, opposed to what feels righteous to her? Who has the authority to trump what she feels is best for her child, just because the majority does not understand?
That's a good question, and that's the kind of government we've all decided to have.
I did not decide this government. So my question to you, because I did not decide to have this type of government and I oppose it, what do you think my remedy is? Or what do you
Go through the court system that we have all supported and funded.
I'm telling you, I do not support it. So what are you suggesting the remedy is for people in this nation who do not support what you're saying? Because you keep using the term we, I'm telling you, I'm not included. So what's the remedy for me who is not included in?
The question is, how many of y'all out there actually supported a bar union that's in conflict of interest against you? It's just a question, y'all.
You go through the court system, and if that doesn't work, then you try to elect people who would feel differently, and if that doesn't work, you have two choices. Stay and are subject like the rest of us.
I'm sorry, one more time?
You go through the court. If that doesn't work, you try to elect representatives, and if that doesn't work, you have two choices. Stay or you leave.
Stay or leave where?
That's it.
I'm sorry, ma'am, stay or leave where?
This country, and go to some other country that has rules and laws that maybe are better suited.
I was born on this land, so you're saying if I don't conform to a legal fictitious entity that was established on the land that I was born, a man, I have to leave?
Unless you want to follow their rules.
Unless I want to comply with the legal fictitious entity.
Let me ask you this. I'm just curious.